Continuing, Matthew chapter 1, 18 to 19. This is the origin of Jesus Messiah. When his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found with child through a Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, since he was a righteous man, yet unwilling to expose her to shame, decided to divorce her quietly. Let's stop right there. Some English translations say, since he was a just man, instead of righteous. In the cultural context, what does righteous mean? Okay, and this is something very interesting. Two words in the Israelite tradition express a holy man. Zadik and Hazid. Zadik and Hazid. Both terms refer to someone who really wants to obey the God of Israel. The Zadik is satisfied fulfilling the ordinary requirements of Torah, all 613 commandments. But the Hazid, or just righteous man, desires to go beyond the ordinary requirements. He wants to do even more than the Zadik in pleasing God. He wants to do it in superabundance. Now, both the Hazid and the Zadik are what anthropologists would call shamanic figures. They're holy people, men and women. That means they have regular access to the world of the spirits. And we're going to see Joseph does that, doesn't he? He talks regularly in dreams. He dreams dreams and speaks with the spirit of the angel of the Lord. The rules say you have to wash your hands before you eat. Not for hygiene, but for sake of purity. So the Hazid asks, what does wash your hands mean? Is cleaning my hands below the wrist enough? So I just clean my hands? Or do you have to wash beyond the wrist? Or would you have to go halfway up the forearm? Or is the righteousness achieved by going to my elbows? How about going beyond my elbow? That's what the Hazid does. The Zadik is fine with just washing the hands. But the Zadik. But the Hazid will go beyond. Goes beyond in trying to please God. And those are all valid opinions among the sages of Israel. How far is too much? How far is enough? Unlike the Zadik, the Hazid goes beyond basic requirements to try to please the God of Israel. The text of Matthew invites us to wonder whether Joseph was a Zadik or a Hazid. If Joseph is either such a holy man, a Zadik or Hazid, and he were to accept this child, whom he knows is not his, he's a thief. It's thievery. One of the biggest commandments would therefore be broken, you shall not steal. How could either a Zadik or a Hazid do that? For Joseph to accept the child would be thievery. He cannot do that. Joseph cannot do that. So what are his options? Well, the text tells us that Joseph doesn't want to shame Mary either. This is a very important cultural detail. The core cultural values of these Middle Eastern people are honor and shame. We're going to be exploring this heavily later on, and we've done this always in Bible Alive. Suffice to say, he doesn't want to shame her. Say he did want to shame Mary. How would Joseph go about doing that?
Tell everybody it's not his child.
First, the question, when did we discover what the sperm and the ovum really are? How long ago?
Long.
Quite recently. A little more than a century ago. This is a very recent discovery. What did people believe before we discovered the sperm and the ovum?
That the man implanted the child into the woman.
What we believe, Marco, right, was that in sexual intercourse, the male delivered a miniature, fully formed human being, in Latin homunculus, into the female. And we laugh, but if you didn't have a microscope, what would you think? If we had no microscopic data,
Right.
these people aren't stupid. They're using their intelligence the best they have. But we laugh. This view, the female contributes absolutely nothing to the process except passive reception. The male does all the work. He plants the seed. The man is like a sower, right? And the woman is like a field. That's why she's barren and he's potent or impotent. You follow?
Right.
Fertile or barren. We still use this language. It's from seed and from field. And this helps explain why barrenness is such a big problem in the Bible. All a woman has to do is hold on to the seed, and she can't even do that. Why can't she do something as simple as hold on to the seed? The man's done all the work. The man makes the deposit, and all she has to do is hold it. What's the matter with her? What's wrong with her? You see how horrific this is? This is the basis for conception in the ancient world, as understood by the ancients. The male is the totally responsible person. To show you how infectious this idea was, I want you to consider the first time that scientists actually looked at sperm through a microscope. The scientists were absolutely convinced that they would find miniature beings when they looked, that when they did look at horse sperm, they imagined seeing miniature horses. They actually project their mind. The mind is very tricky. It projected miniature horses into what they were looking at.
I thought they were going to see them, yeah.
That's how culture shapes what you see. These scientists were absolutely convinced that when they peered through their microscopes, they were seeing these miniature beings. I mean, it took a while for the scientists about a century ago to discover something else and see things with new eyes and to drop their prejudiced ideas and wishful thinking. This helps illustrate for us, again, how important it is to keep our sophistication and American ideas out of our Bible reading, out of the ancient Mediterranean texts. Think for a moment how a wedding ceremony happens in the ancient Middle East and observe your ideas and how they try to construct a scenario comfortable to your own American cultural setting. It's nothing like Jewish weddings in our times, and even times as far back as the 6th century AD, which is where Jewish practices originate. Is that how Joseph and Mary would have gotten married? Would they have smashed a glass